Ambassador Laura Chen took a deep breath, her dark eyes fixed on the rapidly approaching alien cityscape below. After years of deep space messages and tentative agreements, humanity was about to make its first face-to-face contact with the Nexians. Entering final approach vector, announced pilot Marcus Reeves, his hands dancing over the holographic controls. Nexian control has cleared us for landing at the Grand Spire. Lyra nodded, smoothing down her formal attire, a blend of traditional Earth designs and colors said to be pleasing to Nexian eyes. Remember the briefing, everyone. The Nexians value precision and punctuality above all else. We can't afford any missteps. As the Aquila touched down on a crystalline landing pad, Lyra marveled at the alien architecture surrounding them. Towering spires of what appeared to be living crystals stretched towards the sky, their surfaces rippling with pulses of bioluminescent light. A delegation of Nexians awaited them at the base of the Grand Spire. Lyra's breath caught in her throat as she got her first real glimpse of the aliens. They were tall, easily 7 feet in height, with slender bodies covered in iridescent scales. Each Nexian had 4 arms and a long, sinuous tail that seemed to move with a mind of its own. Their faces were vaguely feline, with large, multifaceted eyes that shimmered like opals. Lyra stepped forward, raising her hand in the traditional Nexian greeting they had practiced countless times. "Greetings, honored hosts. I am Ambassador Lyra Chen of Earth. We come in peace and with hopes of forging a lasting alliance between our peoples." The lead Nexian, its scales a deep blue that seemed to shift with every movement, raised all 4 of its arms in response. When it spoke, its voice was a melodic trill that the universal translators struggled to keep up with. "Welcome, Ambassador Chen of Earth. I am High Counselor Zixlith. Your punctuality is noted and appreciated. Please, follow us to the Chamber of Confluences, where we shall begin our discussions." As they walked, Lyra couldn't help but marvel at the strange beauty of Nexus Prime. The very ground beneath their feet seemed alive, pulsing with soft light at each footfall. Nexians of various hues moved about their business, some pausing to stare at the human delegation with unabashed curiosity. Inside the Chamber of Confluences, Lyra found herself seated at a circular table that appeared to be grown from the same living crystal as the rest of the city. High Counselor Zixlith and several other Nexian officials arranged themselves around the table, their tails curling around the bases of their chairs. "We have studied your transmissions with great interest," Ambassador Zixlith began, its multifaceted eyes fixed on Lyra. "Your species' rapid technological advancement is concerning to some among us." Lyra leaned forward, choosing her words carefully. "We understand your concerns, High Counselor. Humanity has indeed made great strides, but we've also learned harsh lessons about the responsible use of technology. That's why we're here, to learn from you, to share our knowledge, and to forge a partnership that can benefit both our worlds." Another Nexian, its scales a vibrant green, chittered something that the translators couldn't quite catch. Zixlith's tail twitched in what Lyra hoped was amusement rather than annoyance. "Counselor Vrintha raises a valid point," Zixlith said. "Your kind's history is marked by conflict. How can we be certain that you won't bring war to our peaceful system?" Lyra had anticipated this question. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small holographic projector. With a flick of her wrist, it sprang to life, displaying a 3-dimensional image of Earth. "High Counselor, esteemed members of the Council, what you see before you is our homeworld. Once it was ravaged by war, pollution, and short-sightedness. But look closer." The hologram zoomed in, showing gleaming cities powered by clean energy, vast reforested areas, and oceans teeming with life. "This is Earth today. We learned from our mistakes. We came together as a species to heal our planet and reach for the stars. Yes, we have known conflict, but we've also known triumph over our baser instincts. We don't come to Nexus Prime seeking resources or territory. We come seeking friends, allies, and partners in the great journey of exploration and discovery." The Chamber of Confluences fell silent as the Nexians regarded the hologram. Lyra held her breath, acutely aware that the future of human-Nexian relations hung in the balance. Finally, Zixlith spoke, its voice carrying a new tone that the translators interpreted as cautious optimism. "Your words are compelling, Ambassador Chen. Perhaps there is more to your species than our initial assessments suggested. We are willing to continue these discussions, but know that we will be watching closely. Trust, like the living crystal of our cities, must be grown carefully and tended with dedication." Lyra allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't a resounding victory, but it was a start. As the first round of talks began in earnest, she couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger galactic community, and she was determined to ensure they were steps in the right direction. Little did Lyra know that far beneath the glittering spires of Nexus Prime, ancient machinery was stirring to life, machinery that would soon test the limits of both human ingenuity and Nexian wisdom. As the days wore on, the initial optimism of first contact began to wane. Ambassador Lyra Chen found herself increasingly frustrated by the seemingly endless layers of Nexian protocol and etiquette. Every proposal, every suggestion had to be filtered through a complex system of cultural checks and balances that the humans were still struggling to grasp. "I don't understand," Lyra said, pacing the floor of the Earth delegation's temporary quarters. "We've been here for a week, and we've barely made any progress on the trade agreement." Marcus Reeves, the Aquila's pilot who had taken on the role of cultural attaché, looked up from his datapad. "It's their decision-making process, Ambassador. The Nexians value consensus above all else. They won't move forward until every member of their council is in complete agreement." Lyra ran a hand through her hair, a gesture of frustration she'd been making more frequently lately. "At this rate, we'll be here for years before we get anything concrete established." A chime at the door interrupted their conversation. It slid open to reveal Vreen the green-scaled Nexian counselor who had been particularly skeptical of the human delegation. "Ambassador Chen," Vreen trilled, its tail swishing in a way that the humans had learned to interpret as agitation. "The High Council requests your presence immediately. There has been an incident." Lyra's heart sank. "What kind of incident?" "One of your team members has committed a grave cultural transgression. Please come quickly." As they hurried through the crystalline corridors, Lyra's mind raced. What could have happened? She had briefed her team extensively on Nexian customs. Had someone made a careless mistake? They entered a small chamber where the rest of the Earth delegation was already gathered, looking tense. At the center of the room stood Dr. Elias Sato, the team's xenobiologist, his face pale with worry. High Counselor Zixlith's voice was cold as it addressed Lyra. "Ambassador, your scientist has violated one of our most sacred taboos. He has taken samples from the living crystal without permission." Lyra's eyes widened in shock. She turned to Dr. Sato, who looked ready to sink into the floor. "Is this true, Elias?" The scientist nodded miserably. I didn't think it would be a problem. The crystal is everywhere, and its properties are fascinating. I only took a small scraping for analysis." That small scraping was a piece of our city's very essence, Vreen hissed, its scales flushing a deeper green in anger. "Would you carelessly slice off a piece of your own flesh, human?" Lyra held up her hands in a placating gesture. "High Counselor, esteemed members of the Council, please accept our deepest apologies. Dr. Sato acted out of scientific curiosity, not malice. We were unaware of the sacred nature of your living crystal." Zixlith's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Ignorance is no excuse, Ambassador. This transgression cannot be overlooked. The Council will need to reconsider the entire basis of our negotiations." Lyra felt a cold knot of dread forming in her stomach. All their hard work, the carefully built foundation of trust, was crumbling before her eyes. She had to find a way to salvage the situation. "High Counselor, if I may," she began, her mind racing. "On Earth, when a grave mistake is made, we have a tradition of making amends through a gesture of goodwill. Perhaps there is a way for us to demonstrate our sincere regret and our commitment to respecting your culture." The Nexians conferred among themselves, their tails twitching in agitation. Finally, Zixlith turned back to Lyra. "There may be a way, Ambassador, but it will require a significant sacrifice on your part." "Anything," Lyra said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "What do you propose?" "The human who committed this transgression must undergo the rite of crystalline communion," Vreenva announced. "It is a sacred ritual that will allow him to truly understand the nature of what he has defiled." Dr. Sato stepped forward, his voice shaky but determined. "I'll do it, whatever it takes to make this right." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, both in support and warning. "What does this ritual entail exactly?" Zixlith's expression was unreadable. The details are known only to those who have undergone it. But know this, it is not without risk. Your scientist's mind will be open to the living crystal in ways that no human has experienced before. The outcome is uncertain. A heavy silence fell over the room. Lyra looked from Dr. Sato to the Nexian Council members, weighing their options. The fate of human-Nexian relations hung in the balance, and she knew that her next decision could change everything. "Very well," Lyra said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "We accept your proposal. Dr. Sato will undergo the rite of crystalline communion." As the Nexians led Dr. Sato away to prepare for the ritual, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into unknown territory. The complexities of interspecies diplomacy had taken an unexpected and potentially dangerous turn. Little did any of them know that the rite of crystalline communion would set in motion a chain of events that would test the limits of both human adaptability and Nexian tradition. As the twin suns of Nexus Prime set, casting an eerie glow over the living crystal city, the stage was set for a clash of cultures that would reshape the future of both species. The rite of crystalline communion was scheduled for the following day, but fate had other plans for the humans and Nexians. As the first light of Nexus Prime's twin suns began to creep over the horizon, the ground beneath the city trembled ominously. Ambassador Lyra Chen was jolted awake by the violent shaking of her quarters. Alarms blared throughout the crystalline structure as she stumbled to her feet, struggling to maintain her balance. "Ambassador." Marcus Reeves burst into the room, his face etched with concern. "We need to evacuate immediately. The city's under attack." Lyra's mind raced as she quickly dressed. Attack? From whom? I thought the Nexians were a peaceful species. "Not an attack from outside," Marcus explained as they hurried down the corridor. "It's coming from below. The living crystal itself is rebelling." As if to emphasize his point, a massive crystalline spire nearby suddenly twisted and groaned, its normally smooth surface becoming jagged and threatening. Nexians scrambled in all directions, their usual grace replaced by panic. They found High Counselor Zixlith in the central command center, its scales pulsing with rapid color changes that reflected the chaos around them. "Ambassador Chen," it trilled, relief evident in its voice. "I'm glad to see you safe. We are facing an unprecedented crisis." "What's happening?" Lyra demanded, watching in horror as holographic displays showed the spreading destruction across the city. Vreenva, looking more subdued than Lyra had ever seen it, answered. "The ancient heart of our world, the prime crystal deep beneath the city, has awakened. It's angry." "Angry?" Lyra repeated, incredulous. "I don't understand. How can a crystal be angry?" Zixlith's tail lashed in agitation. "The living crystal is more than mere mineral, Ambassador. It is sentient in ways we still don't fully comprehend. For millennia, it has slumbered, allowing us to build our civilization upon it. But now..." Another violent tremor shook the command center. Cracks began to appear in the walls, glowing with an ominous inner light. "We need to evacuate the city," Marcus said urgently. "The Aquila can take as many as possible." Vreenva shook its head vehemently. "No, we cannot abandon our home. The Prime Crystal is the source of all life on Nexus Prime. If it truly awakens in anger, It could destroy the entire planet. Lyra's mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of information. Wait, you said this started happening today. Could it be related to the sample Dr. Saito took? A hushed silence fell over the Nexians. Zixlith's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. It's possible. The living crystal is interconnected throughout the planet. Perhaps the violation of even a small piece could have awakened the prime crystal. Then we need to fix this, Lyra said firmly. Where's Dr. Saito now? In the Chamber of Confluences, Vrinda replied, preparing for the rite of crystalline communion. Lyra turned to Marcus. Get to the Aquila. Prepare for emergency evacuation if necessary, but hold position for now. She faced the Nexian Council. Take me to Dr. Saito. If this crisis is our fault, then we need to be part of the solution. As they raced through the crumbling corridors of the Grand Spire, Lyra's mind whirled with possibilities. The fate of an entire world now rested on their ability to understand and appease a sentient crystal entity that they had unknowingly offended. They found Dr. Saito in the Chamber of Confluences, surrounded by Nexian priests. The room was eerily calm compared to the chaos outside, the walls pulsing with a soft, rhythmic light. Elias, Lyra called out. We need your help. The entire planet is in danger, and it might be connected to the sample you took. Dr. Saito's eyes widened in horror. Oh God, what have I done? Zixlith stepped forward, its voice carrying a resolve that cut through the tension. There is no time for regret. The rite of crystalline communion may be our only hope. If the human can truly connect with the living crystal, perhaps he can communicate our remorse to the prime crystal. But the ritual hasn't been tested on non-Nexians, Vrinda protested. The strain could kill him. Dr. Saito squared his shoulders, a look of determination replacing his fear. I'll do it. I caused this problem, and I'll do whatever it takes to fix it. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. Elias, you don't have to do this. It's too dangerous. With all due respect, Ambassador, Dr. Saito said with a wry smile, danger is part of the job description when you sign up for first contact missions. As the Nexian priests began to prepare for the accelerated ritual, Lyra felt a mix of pride and fear for her team member. The fate of two species now rested on the shoulders of one brave scientist. The chamber began to glow more intensely as the priests guided Dr. Saito to a crystalline altar. As he lay down, tendrils of living crystal began to grow around him, enveloping his body. Lyra watched, her heart pounding, as Dr. Sato's eyes flew open, glowing with an inner light that matched the pulsing of the crystal. His mouth opened in a silent scream as his consciousness was thrust into communion with an alien intelligence beyond human comprehension. Outside, the violent tremors suddenly ceased. An eerie silence fell over the city of living crystal. In that moment of quiet, the true test of human adaptability and Nexian wisdom was about to begin. The next few moments would determine whether two vastly different species could find common ground in the face of catastrophe, or whether the grand experiment of interstellar diplomacy would end in tragedy. As Dr. Elias Sato's consciousness merged with the living crystal, the Chamber of Confluences became a nexus of swirling energy. Ambassador Lyra Chen and the Nexian Council watched in awe and trepidation as the human scientist's body levitated slightly above the crystalline altar, surrounded by a cocoon of pulsating light. Suddenly, Dr. Sato's eyes snapped open, but they were no longer his own. Instead of their usual brown, they shimmered with an opalescent quality that mirrored the living crystal itself. When he spoke, his voice resonated with a multitude of harmonics, as if multiple entities were speaking through him. We are the prime crystal, the voice said, causing the Nexians to prostrate themselves in reverence. We have slumbered for eons, dreaming the dreams of stone and starlight. But now we are awake, and we are angry. Lyra stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in despite the surreal situation. Great Prime Crystal, we apologize for any offense we have caused. Please, tell us how we can make amends. The being that was both Elias and not Elias turned its gaze upon her. You small, fleeting creatures, you build your cities upon our body, you shape us to your will, and now you dare to take pieces of us for your own curiosity. It was a mistake, Lyra pleaded. We didn't understand. We're here to learn, to grow, to forge a connection between our peoples. Connection? The prime crystal mused through Elias. You speak of connection, yet you understand so little. Your minds are fragmented, isolated. You cannot truly comprehend the vast network of consciousness that is our being. As the entity spoke, Lyra's mind raced. There had to be a way to bridge this gap, to make the prime crystal understand. Suddenly, an idea struck her. A crazy, potentially dangerous idea, but one that might just work. Great prime crystal, Lyra said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. You say we cannot comprehend your vast network of consciousness. But what if we could show you ours? The being tilted Elias's head, curiosity evident in its otherworldly eyes. Explain. Lyra turned to Marcus, who had joined them in the chamber. The Aquila's quantum entanglement communicator. Can you reconfigure it to interface with the living crystal? Marcus's eyes widened as he caught on to her plan. It's possible, but highly experimental. We'd be linking the ship's AI directly to the crystal network. The data transfer would be immense, Lyra finished. Exactly. Great prime crystal, we humans may be individuals, but we are also part of a vast network that spans the stars. Our knowledge, our history, our hopes and dreams, all of it is connected through our technology. If you'll allow it, we can share this network with you to show you who we truly are. The chamber fell silent as the prime crystal considered her proposal. Finally, it spoke through Elias once more. Your offer is intriguing. We will permit this connection. Over the next few hours, as the city of living crystal creaked and groaned around them, Marcus and a team of Nexian technicians worked feverishly to integrate the Aquila's advanced communication systems with the crystalline network. It was a delicate process, requiring all of Marcus's piloting skills and engineering knowledge. Finally, everything was ready. Lyra stood before the altered Elias, her hand hovering over the activation switch. Are you ready? She asked, addressing both her friend and the ancient intelligence possessing him. We are ready, came the reply. Lyra took a deep breath and pressed the switch. Instantly, the chamber was filled with a blinding light as the full scope of human knowledge and experience flooded into the living crystal network. Millennia of history, art, science, and culture flowed through the connection. The triumphs and tragedies of humanity, their hopes and fears, their relentless drive to explore and understand, all of it was laid bare before the prime crystal. For what seemed like an eternity, the transfer continued. Lyra and the others watched anxiously, hoping against hope that this gamble would pay off. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded. Elias's body gently descended back onto the altar, the glow in his eyes dimming. When he spoke again, it was with a voice of wonder and understanding. We see now. You're kind, so brief yet so vibrant. Your minds may be separate, but they are far from isolated. Your connections, they are different from ours, but no less profound. The tremors that had been shaking the city gradually subsided. The ambery red glow of the crystals faded, replaced by a soft, welcoming blue. Elias sat up, looking dazed but very much himself again. Ambassador, High Counselor Zixlis said, its voice filled with awe, what you have done here today, it is unprecedented. You have not only saved our world, but opened up an entirely new avenue of understanding between our peoples. Lyra helped Elias to his feet, supporting him as he regained his strength. That's why we came here, High Counselor, not to conquer or to take, but to learn and to share. Our differences may be great, but our capacity for growth and understanding is greater still. As they emerged from the Chamber of Confluences, they were greeted by a city transformed. The living crystal now pulsed with new patterns, intricate designs that seemed to echo the vast tapestry of human culture and knowledge. Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. The crisis had been averted, but the real work of building a lasting relationship between humans and Nexians was just starting. Yet, as she looked out over the glittering spires of the alien city, now infused with a touch of humanity, she felt a surge of hope. In the face of misunderstanding and potential disaster, human ingenuity and the willingness to take bold risks had once again opened up new frontiers of possibility. The stars above Nexus Prime twinkled with promise, and Lyra Chen, ambassador of Earth, smiled at the thought of the incredible journey that lay ahead. In the days following the Prime Crystal crisis, Nexus Prime buzzed with a new energy. The melding of human knowledge with the living crystal had sparked a renaissance of sorts, with both species eager to explore the possibilities of their newfound understanding. Ambassador Lyra Chen found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The Nexian High Council, once cautious and reserved, now approached the human delegation with an almost childlike curiosity about Earth and its culture. Ambassador, High Counselor Zixlith said during one of their many meetings, its scales shimmering with excitement, "We have been studying the vast repository of knowledge you shared with us. Your species' ability to adapt and innovate is truly remarkable." Lyra smiled, still amazed at how quickly the situation had turned around. "Thank you, High Counselor. We're equally fascinated by your civilization and the living crystal technology. I believe there's so much we can learn from each other." Vrintha, who had once been their harshest critic, now leaned forward eagerly. "Indeed, we've already begun incorporating some of your engineering principles into our crystal structures. The results have been most impressive." As if on cue, a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the room, showing a new section of the city. Lyra gasped in awe. The crystalline spires now bore intricate patterns that seemed to blend Nexian organic shapes with human geometric designs. It was a stunning visual representation of the cooperation between their species. "It's beautiful," Lyra breathed. "But I'm curious, how does this affect the functionality of the structures?" Zixlith's multifaceted eyes gleamed with pride. "The new designs have increased energy efficiency by 37% and improved structural integrity by 22%. But more importantly, they've allowed for better communication between the crystal network and our own neural interfaces." Dr. Elias Sutto, who had been quietly observing until now, spoke up. "That's fascinating. Have you considered the potential applications for interstellar communication? If we could adapt this technology to work with our quantum entanglement communicators." The Nexians chittered excitedly among themselves. "The possibilities are endless," Vrintha trilled. "Ambassador Chen, we would like to propose a joint research initiative, a team of our best scientists working alongside yours to explore these new frontiers." Lyra felt a surge of excitement. This was exactly the kind of cooperation she had hoped for when she embarked on this mission. "I think that's an excellent idea. We'd be honored to participate." Over the next few weeks, the city of Nexus Prime became a hub of collaborative innovation. Human scientists worked side by side with Nexian crystal shapers, each learning from the other's unique perspective and abilities. Marcus Reeves, applying his piloting skills in unexpected ways, helped design new navigation systems that integrated crystal technology with human aerospace engineering. The result was a prototype ship that could navigate the complexities of hyperspace with unprecedented precision. Dr. Sato, still bearing a faint opalescent gleam in his eyes from his communion with the prime crystal, made breakthrough after breakthrough in the field of xenobiology. His unique insight into the living crystal's consciousness led to advancements in medical technology that benefited both species. But it wasn't just in the realm of science and technology that humans and Nexians found common ground. Cultural exchanges flourished as well. Lyra found herself teaching a group of fascinated Nexians about Earth's diverse music and art, while in turn learning the intricacies of Nexian crystal song, a form of music created by resonating the living crystal at specific frequencies. One evening, as Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city, she was joined by Zixlith. The Nexian High Counselor's scales were a soft, contented blue in the fading light of the twin suns. "You seem deep in thought, Ambassador," Zixlith observed. Lyra nodded, gesturing to the bustling city below. "I'm just taking it all in. A month ago, we were on the brink of disaster. Now look at us, working together, creating wonders neither of our species could have achieved alone." Zixlith's tail swished in what Lyra had learned was a sign of agreement. "Indeed, your arrival has changed our world in ways we could never have predicted. But change, we are learning, is not always to be feared." "There's still so much to do," Lyra mused. "So many challenges to overcome." "True," Zixlith agreed, "but we will face them together. The prime crystal has shown us the value of connection, not just among our own kind, but between different species across the stars." As they stood there, watching the city's crystals begin to glow with bioluminescence in the gathering dusk, a new sound filled the air. It was a harmony of human voices and Nexian crystal song, rising from a cultural center in the heart of the city. The melody was strange yet beautiful, a perfect metaphor for the union of their two civilizations. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of pride and hope for the future. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be misunderstandings, setbacks, and new challenges to face. But in this moment, as human and Nexian art blended into something entirely new and wonderful, she knew that they were on the right track. The stars above Nexus Prime seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if in approval of the unprecedented cooperation unfolding on the planet below. And somewhere deep beneath the city, the prime crystal pulsed with a newfound rhythm, a beat that echoed the combined heartbeats of two species united in their quest for knowledge and understanding. As the last light of the twin suns faded, Lara Chen, Ambassador of Earth, looked to the horizon with renewed determination. The next chapter in the story of human-Nexian relations was just beginning, and she couldn't wait to see what marvels it would bring. A year had passed since the fateful day when human ingenuity and Nexian wisdom had come together to avert a planetary crisis. The city of Nexus Prime, once a purely Nexian marvel, had transformed into a shining beacon of interspecies cooperation. The skyline now boasted structures that seamlessly blended human architectural concepts with the organic flow of living crystal, creating a cityscape unlike any other in the known galaxy. Ambassador Lara Chen stood at the podium in the newly constructed Harmony Spire, the tallest building on Nexus Prime, and a joint human-Nexian endeavor. Before her stretched a sea of faces, human, Nexian, and representatives from a dozen other species who had been drawn to this unprecedented alliance. 1 year ago, Lyra began, her voice carrying clearly through the crystal-enhanced acoustics of the chamber. "We stood on the brink of disaster. Today, we stand at the threshold of a new era of galactic cooperation." She gestured to the holographic display behind her, which showed the first Nexian-human hybrid starship in orbit around the planet. Its sleek lines and crystalline accents were a testament to the incredible advancements made possible by their combined knowledge. "The Starbridge, as we've named it, is more than just a ship," Lyra continued. "It's a symbol of what we can achieve when we open our minds and hearts to those different from ourselves. Its crystal-enhanced quantum engines will allow us to explore further into the cosmos than ever before, and its adaptive AI, developed jointly by human computer scientists and Nexian crystal shapers, will help us communicate with new species we encounter." High Counselor Zixlith stepped forward, its scales shimmering with a mix of colors that the humans had learned to recognize as deep emotion. "Ambassador Chen speaks truly," it trilled. "The Starbridge is but one example of the marvels we have created together. Our medical technology has advanced by centuries, our understanding of the universe has expanded exponentially, and most importantly, we have forged bonds of friendship that transcend the boundaries of biology." Dr. Elias Sato, now the lead scientist of the Joint Research Initiative, joined them at the podium. The faint opalescent gleam in his eyes, a remnant of his communion with the prime crystal, seemed to glow brighter as he spoke. "What we've accomplished here is just the beginning. The living crystal technology, combined with human AI and quantum physics, has opened up possibilities we're only starting to explore. We're on the cusp of developments that could revolutionize everything from space travel to environmental restoration. As the crowd murmured in excitement, Marcus Reeves, who had become the lead test pilot for the new hybrid vessels, chimed in. And let's not forget the cultural exchange. Have you all tried the new crystal-synthesized Earth cuisines? I never thought I'd taste authentic pizza on an alien world. A ripple of laughter and trills of amusement swept through the audience. Laura smiled, remembering the early days of culinary misunderstandings and the joy of finally cracking the code to recreate Earth flavors using Nexian crystal technology. But our work is far from over, Lyra said, her tone becoming more serious. As we prepare to venture further into the galaxy, we must remember the lessons we've learned. Our differences are not obstacles to be overcome, but strengths to be celebrated. The challenges we will face out there, she pointed to the stars visible through the crystal dome above, will require all of our combined skills, knowledge, and creativity. Vreenfa, once their harshest critic and now one of the strongest advocates for human-Nexian cooperation, stepped forward. We have also learned the importance of respecting the unknown. The prime crystal has taught us that consciousness can exist in forms we never imagined. As we explore, we must do so with open minds and careful consideration. Lyra nodded in agreement, which is why the Starbridge isn't just an exploration vessel. It's also a diplomatic one, staffed by the brightest minds from both our worlds, trained to seek understanding before action. As the ceremony concluded and the assembled dignitaries began to mingle, Laura found a quiet moment to slip away to a balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, casting a warm glow over the crystalline spires. She felt a presence beside her and turned to see Sixlith. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Lyra said softly. "Indeed," Sixlith agreed. "Ambassador, Lyra, when your ship first arrived, I never could have imagined this outcome. You have changed our world." Lyra shook her head, smiling. "We changed it together, old friend, and now we're about to change the galaxy." As if on cue, a bright light streaked across the darkening sky, the Starbridge, beginning its maiden voyage. Lyra felt a thrill of excitement and a touch of nervousness. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with unknown dangers and unimaginable wonders. But as she stood there, watching the ship that represented the best of both their worlds vanish into the stars, she knew that whatever the universe had in store, they would face it together. The first chapter of human-Nexian relations was coming to a close, but a new, even more exciting one was just beginning. As the last rays of the twin suns faded and the bioluminescent glow of the city came to life, Lyra Chen, ambassador of Earth, felt a renewed sense of purpose. The future was unwritten, a vast canvas of possibilities stretching out before them. And together, humans and Nexians would paint it with colors yet unseen, creating a masterpiece of cosmic cooperation that would echo through the ages. The end of this story was just the beginning of a greater adventure, one that would span stars, challenge perceptions, and prove that in the vast, often daunting expanse of the universe, understanding and friendship could bridge even the greatest of divides.